Well, howdy, folks. This is Matt Stringer again, reporter with the Texan News, and I'm at the Republican State Convention in San Antonio, joined by the first time by Kinney County Attorney Brent Smith. Mr. Smith, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Matt. Pleasure to be here.
We'll jump right into it. Now, you are one of the officials, local officials, I should say, on the front lines of the border crisis down in Kinney County. Can you give our listeners a quick overview of what your office does, namely as it relates to prosecuting crimes?
Well, most county attorneys are kind of a Swiss Army knife in county government, but one of the things we do is prosecute all misdemeanor crimes occurring in the county. We also advise the Commissioner's Court on policy, contracts, a lot of civil involved, but, under Operation Lone Star, about 99% of it is criminal prosecutions right now. So my staff has, exploded, basically. When I took office, there was one secretary, and that was it. It was a part-time type position. But with Operation Lone Star coming into play and the border crisis, I now have 6 or 7 paralegals and a couple assistant prosecutors just to handle the caseload of something like Galveston County. And so most of my day is spent on criminal prosecutions now.
Kind of give us a little bit of a perspective. What's the population-wise of Kinney County versus one of these larger offices that you're comparing?
We have about 3,200 people in our county.
Entire county.
It's agricultural ranch lands mainly, some farmland, a lot of hunting and agricultural.
And so a lot of probably the vast majority of those Operation Lone Star charges that you're seeing, lots of criminal trespass and related.
Right, a lot of criminal trespass. With private property basically in the entire county, and it's all fenced, either game fence, high fence, low fence. There's some fence of some type. So if you basically get off the right of way of the highway, you're criminally trespassing onto someone's property.
So you recently testified before Congress, speaking on the border issue. Can you give our listeners a kind of a recap of what was discussed?
Yeah, they wanted someone from the local government level to testify what kind of costs that the border crisis was producing on counties. And so I discussed the influx of just prosecutions. Just give an example, in 2020 we had about 200 countywide charges, criminal charges created. In 2021 that jumped to 3,000 from 200. And then the next year it jumped to almost 7,000 criminal charges. And I think this year we're at, or last year we're at 6,800 criminal charges countywide. And so, the amount of criminal charges it's off the charts. And so trying to get the resources and to wrap your head around that, I think we've spent from the beginning of our border crisis to now almost $10 million in additional spending for just the criminal justice system. And most people think Operation Lone Star is more cops on the road. But when you do that, you inevitably have more arrests, a lot more arrests.
Sure.
And so all that, pings the clerk's office, the jail, the judge's office, my office. Every office in the realm of criminal justice now has to be beefed up to handle that amount of arrests, in which we have. Thanks to Operation Lone Star, we can actually handle that caseload now.
Interesting. The delegates here at the Republican State Convention, one of the big things that they're doing is working on legislative priorities platform to make their voice heard down in Austin, asking the legislature to address things. I know border security issues, criminal justice issues will be in there, but there will also be a lot of other voices, local officials like yours, chiming up probably to give feedback on what needs to be addressed. Looking forward to the next session. What items are you keeping your eye on?
Definitely, obviously, the border crisis, border security. And I think one thing a lot of people have missed is you can have a good policy or good law written, but at the end of the day, it's how it's implemented. You can have a perfect law written, but if you can't implement it adequately, it's not worth the paper it's written on.
Needing more resources.
To some extent. I think Representative Ginn's bill that he filed, the Texas Division of Homeland Security, is a mechanism that we can use to implement the tools that law enforcement's given, like SB4, like criminal trespass. Right now, when DPS is spread thin, law enforcement is spread thin. I think we need a statewide agency that's specifically trained for border security and where it coordinates and plugs into local law enforcement to where it's intermeshed, to where your resources are there to implement good law and policy. Right now, we're doing the best we can, but on the implementation side of it, we need some work, and I think that's a good solution to go with.
One of the things I hear about whenever I go down to the border is, and not very many people are aware of this, is whenever you have an influx of troopers on the border, those are highway patrolmen that are stationed in other areas around the state that are coming in, being stationed in a hotel room. It's pulling them away, and that's not really what their trained and their forte is. Border crisis. So as you're talking about, this new entity that is trained and set up and designed to be there and focus on that sort of issue. You've just got here today, I believe, from down on the border.
Mm-hmm.
What's the latest news? Anything? Are numbers increasing, slowing down?
Well, that's an interesting question. The numbers are actually slowing down. Well, the numbers are going down, but a lot of that is because we don't have the law enforcement out in the brush to make the arrests. So it's kind of like the numbers look better, but it's no one's there to arrest them. But at the same time, I think some of the traffic is getting diverted to Arizona or other places. So it's kind of a combination of both. But right now, when Kinney County, when Operation Lone Star began in Kinney County, we had all the resources almost there, and now that so many counties have joined it, those same resources are now spread to cover all of it. And what we've noticed is just trying to enforce criminal trespass alone has been difficult, and that's a law we've had since Texas was created. So it's the implementation side I think we really need to focus on.
Speaking of criminal trespass, have you been following the legal challenges at the Fifth Circuit on SB4, also the buoy barriers, et cetera? And could you kind of give us a rundown on what you understand the latest on that front to be?
I think all the cases are in the Fifth Circuit right now. The buoy case is in the en banc court, which meaning all the judges heard it. SB4 is on a 3-circuit panel of judges waiting to hear that, or they heard it, they're waiting for the ruling. My guess would be they're probably waiting for the en banc decision to come down from that hearing before they rule, because if it's vice versa, you might get some conflicting precedent out of both of those cases, because those two cases, they each touch on the state's sovereign ability to defend its borders. So they're going to have some overlap. It's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen. And they have requested in the buoy case that, I think Representative Spiller spoke to this, that they requested additional briefing from the state and both parties on Article 1 invasion. So I think that's going to be a crucial part of their ruling, and it'll be interesting.
It'll be very interesting to see. Well, Mr. Smith, we appreciate you making the journey up here to San Antonio and joining us first time here at the Texan. And of course, all these issues that we discuss, will continue to follow and report on them in depth.
Well, y'all do a good job here reporting the facts and what's happening in Texas, and I appreciate that.
We appreciate that too.
All right, thank you.